Hello and welcome to the next episode of Cylinder Radio. I'm your host, Will Roosh, high school teacher in California, and trying to make a better example of how we can have conversations and how we can tackle controversial issues through dialogue and not screaming at each other and not, canceling each other, and just instead hearing each other out with some genuine curiosity and some intellectual humility and some grace. So the topic for today is about being transgender. And this is actually my fourth podcast of like 75 episodes, my fourth podcast on this topic. My very first podcast with Danny Cesena was on this issue. My third podcast with Corinna Cohn was on this issue. And then about a year ago, I had Lex Horowitz on to talk about this. And now about 2 years into doing this podcast, I have Luca Iclodean, which is, I'm saying like a white person. Okay. I had an issue that I was talking about on social media where a former podcast guest was upset with me many months after doing the podcast. And I wanted to bring them back on and they didn't want to, or they wanted to charge me a lot of money to do that. And I was disappointed because I want to understand things better. And the amazing power of social media led me to Luca. And now you're here. Thank you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So give us a little bit of a background. So I want to try and give you as much of a platform as possible just to share your experience. What I have found after, not just I've done 3, podcasts on this issue, but I've also talked to as many people who are transgender as I possibly can. Because it's obviously a very big area of contention among Americans and people in the world right now. And what I have found, having talked to a whole bunch of different people that are trans, is diversity. It's diversity. And once you recognize that, you go, oh, of course, trans people are diverse. Just like Black people are diverse and Jewish people are diverse and men and women and whatever. I have found diversity, and I think you're probably going to showcase a little bit more of that yourself. But share, as much as you can about like, your background, everything like that, and what makes you someone that I would want to bring on an episode about understanding trans issues better.
So I'll just start off with a little bit about myself. So I was born in Romania. I'm a transgender immigrant from Romania. I moved out here when I was 5. I definitely agree with the whole diversity thing. I do identify as conservative, I guess you could say. I am a Trump supporter, and that's not very common for transgender individuals. Yeah. I don't like how I feel like they kind of put us all in a box, like, if you're trans, you have to hate Trump, or if you're trans, you have to agree with this, and that. And if you speak against it, everybody's just like, well, like what's going on? And yeah, so.
Like as if you're self-hating. Like that, Ayanna Pressley said that. Like if you're not a Black voice for Black people, then you need to shut your mouth. Like that kind of idea, is saying like, oh, or Candace Owens is, a self-hating Black person or something like that. Do you get that kind of stuff?
I definitely have gotten a lot of backlash from the left. I don't really remember anybody saying that like I hate myself or anything like that, but definitely do get a lot of backlash. One of the worst that happened, I left out this part, but I'm actually a mass shooting survivor. I was at the shooting in Las Vegas on 1 October, and I was shot in the back that night, and I was in the hospital for like 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh, at the Country Music Festival?
Yeah. I was working it. So the worst message that I've ever gotten, actually, when I read this, I was just like, I literally like laughed because I couldn't even believe what I was reading, and I couldn't even believe that people could be so hateful. It was from another transgender guy, and I had highlights on my Instagram prior to the election, and he went and like looked through all of them, and he sent me a message, and he said something along the lines where he was like, as a trans immigrant, I can't believe how brainwashed you are by Trump's propaganda or something like that. And then at the end, he said, I don't know if it's brain damage from the shooting, but it's a shame you even survived. And coming from another trans guy, like, just stuff like that, I will never understand that, because they claim to be the tolerant the tolerant group and, you know, love and accept everyone. And the second you go against what they think, they will attack you.
Jeez. Yeah, I had two colleagues that were there. Neither of them were shot, thank God, but you were shot in the back.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I'm glad your colleagues are okay.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
good news.
yeah. I mean, that's incredible. And yes, so speaking out like that happens, it's very strange the way that works. I mean, with the George Floyd riots and things like that, I don't want to digress too much away from the trans issue, but like, there's all those images and videos of like white, left, extreme, left men, white men like spitting in the face of like black female officers and stuff
Yeah,
like
I've
like
seen
it's
that.
so strange. A guy wearing like a Black Lives Matter shirt throwing things at a black woman carrying her baby because she had a Trump hat on. It's like, what is
Yep.
going on here? This is strange.
Exactly that. I don't get it, and it really frustrates me that people don't see what's going on, and it's just crazy to me. If you're a conservative black person, then apparently it's okay to be racist towards them, or if you're a conservative transgender person, it's okay to be transphobic towards them or be hateful towards them.
So yeah, it's very strange. So getting back to like the issue, I think that when did you, I guess just a little bit more about yourself. So my concern, the reason why I keep going after this topic is my concern is I've had several transgendered students. I know the statistics. I know the statistics about trans people, about depression, suicide. I know those statistics, and that is my concern. That's all I really care about, is that everyone, especially everyone in America, let's say, like is okay and they're accepted and they see the Stars and Stripes as a place where they can be themselves. That's the ideal. Now, we didn't live up to that ideal. We might not be living up to it completely yet, but we're inching toward that every single day, hopefully. That's my concern, is I want every American, I don't care if they're trans or black or Jewish or short or tall. I want them to have equal rights, and I want them to be to feel like a 100% American. How do you, at what point did you know that you were trans?
So I pretty much knew my whole life that I didn't like feel right. I've never been girly. Just even growing up, I always wanted to have short hair and dress like a boy. And then it wasn't until I turned 20 actually that I actually understood what I was. I didn't have a word for it. It wasn't until I was 20 that I learned the word transgender.
Wow.
So yeah, and then even through like high school, I didn't have that word in my mind, but I remember always talking to my mom like, oh, I want to have a breast removal. I don't feel comfortable, but I had no idea at that time that there was such a thing as hormones and all this stuff. So yeah, when I turned 20, I learned all about it, and literally within a week of understanding, I was already on hormones.
Okay. So, what if the hormone thing is, I'm gonna kind of bounce around a little bit, just like kind of go off what you're saying. The hormone thing is an interesting one. What are your thoughts on this idea of hormones before, the person is, 18 years old or, whatever, 20 years old or things like that? What are your thoughts on that? Because it's again, it's diverse, it's mixed. And I'm just curious, I know you don't speak, you wouldn't claim to speak for everyone, but I want to know your thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for saying that. Definitely, this is totally my opinion, and I know that most transgender people will definitely disagree with me. So yeah, I'm just gonna put that out there. This is entirely just my opinion. I am mostly pretty much against hormones before 18. It's just a really tough subject. So here's my thing. I feel like nowadays it's almost kind of like becoming a trend. The whole transgender thing is becoming a trend, and I don't like how they're pushing it on kids. Like I've been saying this for so many times now. I've been saying this. There is a huge difference between accepting and loving your kid if and when they come out transgender than there is between literally encouraging them and influencing them to say, oh, well, what gender do you want to be, or what are your preferred pronouns? Like, kids are kids. This is serious stuff. Like, you can't confuse them with this kind of information. And like, it's dangerous because kids are so easily influenced that I feel like, you know, like me, for example, would say that my parents were like, oh, well, do you want to be a boy? Like, I'll put you on hormone blockers. And I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, like at 12 or 11 or whatever, I would say that. And then say I turned 20, 21, and I realized that, you know, it was a mistake. And then I can't have kids anymore. My voice can't go back. Like, it's just, I really think that unless you really, really know for sure that this is what you want, it's it's not a good idea to jump into hormones until you're 18 and can make a mature decision on that, because it's just, being trans is so hard. Like, it is hard. It takes a toll on you mentally, emotionally. There's just so much that comes with it. And a child shouldn't have to be put in that situation. I mean, if the child knows on their own and they know deep in their heart and they come to the parent, like, I'm all for, like, you know what, let them dress how they want. Use the pronouns that they want, but hold it out on the hormones for as long as they can, just in case, especially with everything that's going on in the media now and with the indoctrination in the schools. I know they're pushing this whole LGBT thing everywhere. It just, kids can be so confused so easily, and it's just, in my opinion, it's pretty dangerous. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, people are going to, like, cisgender people will probably come after you for saying stuff like that. And it's like, isn't your opinion valid? Like, I'm not even going to say that it's more valid than other people. I mean, that's a good argument for your opinion to be more valid than other people's, but it's valid at least to recognize. I mean, it is being pushed. It is a trendy thing. There's like a thing that it's cool if your kid is, because you want to show that it's like virtue signaling. You want to show that you're accepting. You want to show that you're loving no matter what. I love my kids no matter what. I have family in Boston, and they're like, you know, in like a kind of a wealthy area, and they go to, you know, like a wealthy area school, and right away in elementary school they ask, you know, what are your pronouns and things like that. And it's
wow.
like, the kids they're not even like thinking that way. They're like, oh, well, I guess it's this. Like, it's just, kids are trying to figure out the world. And I've always been of the opinion that, like, if you're trans, you'll figure it out, you know. And if you might just be gay. Like, did you go through that too, where you're like, maybe I'm just a lesbian? Like, isn't that like, that's like
Yeah. So
with, right?
exactly, yeah. So like I said, I've always been just pretty much a tomboy my whole life. And it's funny because when I came out to my dad for the first time ever, I was actually super young. I was like in 4th grade, and it was because of Hilary Duff from Lizzie McGuire. I was like, I'm in love with her. Like, this is weird. Like, I'm a girl. And it was just funny. But and then yeah, so I came out as, at first I came out as bisexual, because I was like, oh, if I come out as bisexual, at least, yeah, I was like leading everybody up to it. And then I came out as lesbian, and then I came out as transgender. So everybody always jokes, and they're like, damn, how many times are you gonna come out of the closet?
Well, then you had to come out as a Trump supporter. That's
oh, right, yeah. And you know what? That was actually the hardest, believe it or not. That was the hardest, coming out as a Trump supporter. I've had more hate about that than I've had more support being gay, lesbian, bisexual, and then transgender, whatever, than I've had being a Trump supporter. So that's just crazy.
It's like, you're so courageous, Luca. It's like, oh, being trans? No, we're wearing a MAGA hat.
Yeah.
One of the things that I thought was really cool is, you know, when I talk to trans activists, they say, you know, society needs to kind of bend to cater to, you know, when it comes to pronouns. Like, the first podcast I did it was called Transgenderism. And then a later guest said that is, you know, horribly offensive and antiquated, you know, and stuff like that, to even say transgenderism, that it's not a thing. It's absolutely unacceptable to say transgenderism. And I was like, I don't know. Like, so it's transgendered individual.
I don't get the problem with that. I don't know.
It's so tricky. Like, I don't, and like, can't we just identify people as individuals and say, like, what, like, I have no issue giving people the pronoun, asking, you know, people's pronouns if they ask me, but like, to say you need to do everyone with these pronouns, like, no, you don't, because people are individuals. And like, that's somehow like butting heads with a lot of the activist rhetoric. The activist rhetoric is, we are all the same in this. LGBTQ, it's like, I know gay dudes who can't stand lesbians. Like, this is not like this isn't always like a big happy family here.
Yeah, no, like you said, it's very diverse, and everybody has a right to their own opinion and their own individuality, and yeah, just everybody's different. It doesn't, just because we're all a part of LGBT doesn't mean that we all have to be the same or think the same.
Yeah. Um, Corinna Cohn. Are you familiar with Corinna Cohn?
I'm not. I did listen to your podcast, the ones on the transgender topics,
Okay.
but I'm really bad with names. I haven't looked.
It's okay. Yeah, she writes for Quillette and stuff. Just awesome. She's been trans for 30 years, so she's like kind of
Wow.
seen all the trends and stuff like that. But one of the things that she said, you in some way, even though I don't know if she would like consider herself like a conservative, but she was, very reasonable in a lot of ways. She also was just very just came off very resolved, if that makes sense. Just like, this is like, she even said something along the lines of like, I'm not a biological female. I am a trans female. And like it was like a sense of pride. Like, I'm not, like, even just saying like, I'm not, like, I don't know. I want to ask you what you specifically, but like, I'm not a man, I'm a trans man compared to like, I'm a man. And like, isn't that like an individual thing? What are your thoughts on that? Like, how do you kind of like go about like viewing yourself? Like you also seem pretty like resolved about this. You come off that way anyway. Like, yeah, this is who I am. And if you want to like insult me or something like that, that's your issue, not mine. I don't know. Am I reading into it too much?
Oh no, yeah, I think you're right about what you're saying. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, so I mean, when I just see myself as a dude, just as a male, but I'm very proud of the fact that I am transgender. I don't hide it from anyone. I don't make it a point anymore. I used to tell everyone that I'm trans, but now I just like, unless there's a reason to bring it up or mention it, I don't say it. But I am very open about it on social media. Everybody in my life knows I'm trans.
Right.
Yeah, I'm very proud of it, but I also, like, technically I am biologically female because I was born a female. But I'm also a transgender male because I've always felt male, and then I transitioned to male, so therefore I'm a transgender male. That's about it.
Well, here's another thing too, is when they sent me, the person sent me your account, I was like, why are you sending me this person? Like, what does this person have to do with the trans issue? and I was like, oh, wait a second, I think I saw like your scars, and I was like, oh shit. I called my wife. I was like, look at this dude. Like, there is something to this, Luca, where like, I think the term like passable.
Yeah.
I'm looking for those of you that are going to watch this on YouTube. Like, I'm looking at you. If I wore a black shirt, it's a little weird. Like, I don't know. You look like a dude. Like you are a dude. Do you think that plays a role because you are so quote unquote passable?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that if you weren't, that it would maybe be a little bit, more difficult? Maybe people who are trans female, but they're, built like a linebacker, it might be a little bit harder because no one is kind of like, you have to constantly address it. You probably go a long time, lots of interactions in your life, and it doesn't get addressed. Because you're a dude. Like, it just look like a dude. So like, do you think that plays a role where maybe why there's discrepancy within the trans community at all? Do you think that's something, or no?
100%. Yeah. I think, I think everyone's opinions, I think, comes from their personal experience in life and everything that they've dealt with and everything that they've gone through and how they were treated while coming out, while transitioning. And that's why I said, all of this is my opinion, because I had support. I had a lot of support from friends and family. I do know that there's a lot of people who don't have that support from friends and family. And I can understand that makes them see things differently, or, not passing or not feeling like their true self because they don't feel like they're passing enough. I can understand how that can get frustrating for them, for sure. So yeah, it definitely has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, that's a real thing that Danny Sestenia was talking about on my podcast. Just like he works at like the LGBTQ center, and like there's these teenagers that come out and the parents try to kill them and stuff like that. Like, I'd rather kill my son than have a daughter, or something like saying something along those lines. Like, I mean, that's brutal. And I also think that's something that across that's, I think it's it's a very small faction of society that would say, yeah, that's a good idea. Like even conservative people, which I'm sure you interact with a lot, like they just, a lot of people don't seem to care. They don't care if you're trans. They just don't want stuff rammed down their throat about it. Does that seem like something
Exactly.
that you see a lot?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially nowadays, they really don't care. I have so many conservative friends who know that I'm trans, and they're super accepting and loving and understanding. I've never had a problem with it. So yeah.
So there's something to learn from that. Just for like the audience, there's something to learn from that, which is it's very real that if we can make an environment that is, inclusive and care, and care about Martin Luther King, content of character. Are there trans people that are assholes? Yeah, they wrote to you after you were shot. Like, yeah, they
Exactly.
exist.
Yeah.
There's black people that are assholes, and there's black people that are awesome, and there's white people that are assholes and white people that are awesome. Like, can't we get to that point? But I find it's very difficult. If you insult someone who is trans, then you are automatically a transphobe. So if a random trans person comes up and just like kicks my kid, I can't call them an asshole because they're like, it's like protected. Like, and that's not, I guess I see it as that's not helping that person. If you treat them differently, like, shouldn't we just treat people like based on their content of character, so they don't have a free pass to act like an asshole?
Exactly. No, I agree 100%. Yeah, and that's my problem with this whole, like, I feel hold on, I just like lost my train of thought. But going back, yeah, like you can't you if somebody like pisses you off, you can't like call them out on anything, or if they're being an asshole, you can't say it, because if they're trans, that makes you transphobic. If they're black, that makes you racist. And that's not right, because I feel like these groups, they say they keep wanting equality, but I feel like they really just want special treatment. And I feel like they keep taking it further and further. And I don't agree with that. Like, we're all equal. We're all human beings. And yeah, judge them off of the context of their character. Just because you call a black person an asshole doesn't mean that you're racist. Maybe he was just being an asshole. Why do you have to make it about skin color? Or same with trans or gay or lesbian. Why do you have to make it about their sexuality or their gender identity? Like, it has nothing to do with any of that. It I don't know. It drives me crazy. I can't get behind that mentality.
Yeah. A couple of questions I just want to like get your thoughts on. One of them is the idea of trans deaths, like violent deaths. If you look at like the numbers of how many trans people, it's a very small percentage of the population, but there, of that percentage, there are more than average are killed in violent ways. And I read that the statistics on it, but then I read deeper, and it was a lot of sex workers.
Mm-hmm.
So that adds an interesting wrinkle to it, where
Yeah.
prostitutes are more likely to, that's operating outside of the law. Now we can get into whether or not that should be legalized. I think that's an interesting debate. But if you're operating outside of that law, people who want to get a trans prostitute, maybe they have some skeletons in their closet, they're not resolved, they're trying to figure out themselves. They might have an interaction and then feel tremendous amounts of shame and all kinds of crazy stuff going on, skeletons in their closet, so they might lash out and be violent. And I think that's I don't think that's an unimportant detail, that they're sex workers more likely than just walking down the street getting killed for being trans. But there still are transphobe people that wish you harm. And when you call everyone a transphobe, then, well, what do you call those people? I was called by the person that was upset with me, like, you're 100% not an ally. I was like, I called you by your pronouns. I brought you on. I'm here and interacting with you. If
Oh
I'm
man.
not, you got to be careful, because there are people out there that want you to be killed. I want to talk
Yeah.
to you and give you a platform. You just got to see the difference, right?
Yeah. No, like, I mean, look, I'm trans. You're talking to me. You're being super respectful and super nice. Like, I don't know how in any way that makes you transphobic. Like, you're clearly an ally and you're very understanding and you want to get the bigger picture and help everybody come to a conclusion. You're trying to help people. I don't know. I don't know what it is about certain people that just they see everything as transphobic. They get offended over everything, and I don't know why it's like that. And again, maybe it's, like I said, their personal experience that made them that way. But
yeah, it's a shame. Like it's something that I don't know. Do you deal with that a lot? Do you have like do you kind of go not after, but do you try to engage trans people to try and like, hey, like maybe you could learn something from the way I've structured my life, and maybe not carry around. You don't seem to carry around a lot of anger, and I've talked to not just people on my podcast, but I've talked to a lot of trans activists who just seem to be carrying around a lot of anger, again, for justifiable reasons. If your family hates you and people are constantly being horrible to you, I get it. Hurt people. I understand that, and I don't like it. I think that's horrible. But I feel like people could learn from you and the way that you carry yourself in your approach. Even if you don't want to love Trump, like I get it, but I think that there's a lot of people can learn from your approach to things. Do you engage with them about this?
Not really. It's very hard. I mean, all I really do is just post on my Instagram stories. If people want to look at it and like learn from it, then cool. But I'm not the type of person to like go out of my way and be like, hey, like sit down with me, let's talk about this, because I don't want them to feel like I'm coming at them and like attacking the way that they see things, or like attacking their experience, because I don't want them to feel like, well, I went through this and this is why I feel like this, and now you're just kind of dismissing my feelings and my experience and all that. So I don't want it to come off like that. But
you're more
if
like
somebody wanted to talk about it, I would be more than happy to sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah. I mean, you're more of like a live and let live kind of person. Yeah, which makes sense. If you're conservative, it's just like, just leave me alone. Let me live my life. Yeah. And you can respect that of other people. What are your thoughts on I don't know if you saw, but Biden was saying, and Chuck Schumer just agreed. They said the first day in office, he's going to say that all publicly funded schools across the country, that you get to use the bathroom and the sports team with which you identify. Bathroom is one thing. I think sports is probably a little bit trickier. But what are your thoughts on either the bathrooms or sports or both? Just like, again, just your opinion, but I brought you on here because I think your opinion is valuable, Luca. So what is your
opinion? Thank you. So for the bathrooms, I guess it just really depends, because again, like I feel like it's becoming a trend, and they're doing this thing where so many people will be like, well, this week I identify as a guy, next week I identify as a girl. And it's like, so what does that mean as far as the bathrooms go? Like, what is their exact plans with this? Does a 16-year-old boy in high school get to choose when he wants to use the female's restroom just because he says, well, I identify as a woman and I want you to call me he, she, and her, and I get to use the women's restroom? Like, it just really depends. I think if the person really truly is transgender and they are transitioning and they're on hormones and they're
wearing clothes and stuff like that,
then work with that student individually and maybe be more accepting to it and let them use the bathroom that they feel the most comfortable and the safest in. But yeah, if it's just like flip-flopping and people just going from one bathroom to another, then no, I'm not really okay with that. It's a little weird.
And they're teenagers. So teenagers are just going to look for loopholes. They look for loopholes in every law. Like, teenagers are just great bullshit detectors. So they go, wait a second, I can just walk in the girls' room, maybe get a peek at something, and then I can just be like, hey guys, back off. Don't be a transphobe. Like, and they'll just be laughing with their friends. Like, I've been teaching high school for 15 years. I know what high school people, especially high school dudes, will do. But yeah, maybe you need some sort of stipulation. Like you need to be, whether it's like, wearing, the gender clothes, or in some sort of, whether it's hormones, but it's high school. So like maybe it'd be some sort of like process to prove that you are in the process of transitioning. Like there has to be some sort of stipulation, right?
Yeah.
So we don't, and I'm not worried about a transgender person going into the other bathroom and harassing people. I'm worried about kids taking advantage of the rule.
Yeah, exactly.
What about sports? What are your thoughts on sports?
Honestly, I've never really thought about the whole sports thing. I was kind of ignorant to the topics, but just recently I watched a video, I think it was on PragerU, about a trans female competing against women in, I don't
Cycling.
remember what it was exactly. It was some sport, and I guess the cis woman that was talking about it was saying how she worked so hard her whole life to get to like the top and to win, and then along came a trans female and was better at it, and the cis female believed it was because the trans female was born a guy and went through puberty as a guy, and that just automatically gives you a boost over females. And I know this is where, again, the far left is going to get angry about that, because they say like, oh, females are equal to men and all this stuff, but that's not what I'm not trying to get at that. I'm just saying that physically guys have been built stronger than females, like faster than females. And so for the trans female to go through that male puberty and then transition and then go into women's sports, I feel like it definitely gives them an advantage. So I can see both sides though. I can see the frustration of the cis female, and I can see the frustration of the trans female, because like me, for example, I'm transitioned now. So if I wanted to play a sport, I definitely wouldn't want to play with the females. I would want to play with the males if it was
I don't think they would want
gender
you playing
sport.
with them either. I don't think the girls would want you playing with them, because
exactly. Yeah.
That's why I think it's clearly something about it's unfair, because it's never the other way around. There was a high school wrestler named Max Beggs who was transitioning on hormones and stuff in high school, from female to male, and he wanted to wrestle with the boys, and they said no. And I was like, are you nuts? So he wrestled the girls while he was on testosterone and smashed them all. and it's like, wait a second, like that. I don't think anyone has issues with trans men competing with men, because I think you're at a disadvantage if anything, but it's that's never the issue. The issue is always the other way around, because clearly there's an issue, bone density, and you've been on testosterone, just natural testosterone your whole life and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Is there a danger, Luca? Is there a danger to going down the road of saying things like, all of gender and sex is a social construct, that men and women are equal in physical strength, when we know that is not true? You can quantify this any way you want, that the average male and the average female, you look at how, you throw a ball or whatever it is, the average. Now, I'm not saying there aren't like super athletes out there, Serena Williams or whatever, like whatever it is, but the average, it's clearly, but when we are forced to say something as a society, like, nope, that doesn't exist, there's a danger in that, right?
Yeah, I think there is, because it's not right. I mean, I feel like they're just changing everything about how everything used to be. They're literally trying to rewrite life, history, everything, like the way you socialize with people, just all of it. I don't know, there's just so many things going on, especially this year, that just none of it makes any sense to me.
Well, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either. So I'm trying to figure it out. But again, on top of it is people, like you said, like you don't go out like just like, hey, sit down and talk to me, like what I do. and people often don't want to. And it's very interesting how, how people are very vocal. They are activists. They're putting these ideas out there. And I say like, hey, well, I want to talk about your ideas. And it's like, no, because you're not on my side. It's like, well, but how are you going to make sure your ideas are good? Like, we got to challenge these things. We have to have difficult conversations. And I try to always model, like I said, like grace and kindness. And it just doesn't seem to matter much to some people.
Yeah, no, and that is the sad truth. Everybody's just, in their own bubble, and they have their opinions and their views, and they don't want to get into it. And I think what you're doing is great, because this is exactly what needs to be done. People need to talk about things, and it's like everybody's scared to talk about it, or they just don't want to bring anything up.
Well, I really appreciate that. Just to close it out, like there are going to be young trans kids and young people who are figuring this whole thing out, that they think they might be trans, and you've gone through that process. I know there's something up. oh my gosh, Hillary Duff is hot. Like there's all this stuff going on. Okay. What can you just like take just like, you know, whatever, like just a little bit to like a message of what helped you through that? Because you have, again, we're just meeting each other, following on social media, but like you seem to have gotten through the transition part of it really
Hmm.
well, Luca. Like you seem to be really well adjusted in a lot of ways, a way that you're kind of, you know, seeing the world, and it seems like you're not delusional in any way, and like all that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
No, yeah, it's a sincere compliment, because I think there's a lot of people, not even in the trans community, just a lot of people are delusional about what reality is, and you don't seem to
Yeah.
be. How can you help people who are going through that? What kind of advice can you give to figure out if they are trans or what to do, and then how to come through it okay? Because again, my concern is the depression, the drug use, the suicide.
Yeah.
That stuff is my concern. So I want to just give you kind of, I'll shut up and just give you like, what are some things that maybe helped you, and what can you maybe say to hopefully help them?
Yeah. So if you are trans, you're gonna know. So that's the first thing. They'll definitely know. And if they make the decision to move forward with transitioning and all this stuff, I think, if they're lucky enough to have supportive friends and family, which the way things are going nowadays, more families accept it than not accept it. So that's pretty much like the biggest thing there. Just have your friends and your family and focus on that. And if you don't have friends and family that support you, there is, we're lucky to live in America where it's really accepting to be trans. There's, you have all the LGBT centers, you have social media now where you can connect with people. You have, there's even like GoFundMe's and other trans people helping other trans people with their surgeries and all this stuff. It's, it I can't really imagine what it's like to not have supportive friends and family, but at least you do have the option to, get that help and get support from other people in the country. And really just you kind of said something on, I listened to one of your podcasts and I like what you said. It was something about like the dealer keeps handing you like a bad hand, like you're blaming the dealer, but think about how to like take that and I don't remember exactly what you said, but it was so. Do you remember? Because it
Yeah,
was really good.
I think I stole it from Jordan Peterson. It's like play your hand the best you can.
Yeah, exactly. So life's gonna throw your way what it's gonna throw your way, but I guess just always try your hardest to have a positive outlook. And it's like, I don't know. There's so many countries in the world where they would literally kill you for being transgender. And I always say like, well, this is my situation, but there's people who have it worse than you. So that's kind of how I look at it. It's like, yeah, I'm in this situation. It sucks, but it could be a lot worse. And some people can see it that way and some people can't. I think they just, people just really need to push through. That's really all you can do in this life is push through and keep going, because once you get to where you're going, it's totally worth it. Like, I mean, even though I had friends and family supporting me, it still was hard for me to transition. I had backlash from certain people who didn't really understand. They've made comments here and there and whatever, but and it hurt, but I just was like, whatever, like I moved on and now here I am and I'm happy and it was totally worth it. So, just stay true to yourself, keep around you the people that understand you, and focus on all of the good that this country has to offer, because yeah, like I said, in other countries you don't have what you have here. They'll literally kill you for just being who you are. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, you're a lot stronger than you think you are. To people listening who are going through this, human beings are anti-fragile. That's a Nassim Taleb idea. That like the reality is what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And you get broken by people and hardship and all that stuff, you're going to come out of that. A bone's not going to break in the same place twice. So
yeah.
you when you get through that stuff, you're going to come out so strong and so able to do it. But just when you're in the middle of that hurricane, I'm sure it's scary, I'm sure it's really tough, but you will get through it, and you have people to contact and reach out to and things like that. Maybe if someone's struggling, especially if they're maybe female to male trans, would it be okay for them to reach out to you on social media? Like, where can they find you and follow what you're doing? And
Yeah,
maybe,
absolutely. My handle is at Luca Iclodean, so just my first and last name.
Okay. And I'll put it in the notes and on Instagram and stuff like that. Luca, thank you so much for coming on here. I think that it's always good to get perspective, even though you and I seem to agree on a lot. I think it's really good to just get more and more perspectives on this and just keep pushing the same narrative over and over again of people are individuals. Hardship will make you stronger. Go out, do hard things. Try and get a good, group of connected people. Find good friendships and relationships and things like that. I really appreciate you coming on here, man. I really do. Thank you so much.
Hey, Will, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, I got you.
The connection keeps cutting out.
No, I got you. All good. Oh, it's good timing. I'm actually going to hit stop record.